clearly that without having a personal bias, subjective opinions or the interpretation. Normally, I will delete. When I receive the paper from the author, I will delete something which is unnecessary. Your idea, your opinion is not necessary in the finding, right? The finding is actually what you find in your research work. And it has nothing to do with your personal opinion. So make sure that you have to put your idea in the opinion or in the finding. Provide supporting evidence. In your finding, you may back up with research work by somebody else. For example, you find explanation about Atman in the Upanishad, Atta in the Pali Canon. And someone has done this already. For example, Professor Richard Corbin. When you present the discussion of finding, sometimes discussion of finding group together. It depends very much on the journal. Conclusion and discussion are put together in some journal, but I try to separate them all. Maintain an objective tone. Do not try to overstate. Do not try to put your personal ideas in the article as much as you can. Nobody wants to know your idea. Remember that we are studying the Buddha's teaching. We are trying to explain the Buddha's teaching discovered by Siddhartha Gautama, not your teaching. It is not your teaching, right? And more importantly, when I started doing my research, my supervisor told me that when we are doing research papers or thesis, it is not interpretation, but it is simply explanation. Now, many times Buddhists use the word interpretation. Actually, it is not interpretation. Interpretation occurs when there are ambiguous terminology that we don't understand, right? When we don't understand it, it is very ambiguous. It is vague. So we try to interpret it in many different ways. But now, everything is clear in the Pali canonical text. It depends whether you are going to study enough or not. So what we are doing is try to explain, not interpret. Right? For example, the concept of Atman in Upanishad or the concept of Anatta in Buddhism. You are trying to read many sutta in the Pali canonical text and comment your text in order to see how they explain the concept. So your research is not for interpretation, but for explanation. Right? And do not overinterpret the concept. Okay, I try to go quickly. Number 5, how to write discussion. It is very important point. When you start, when you have collected the data from your research project already, right? Now you need to discuss. What do you mean by discuss? Discuss means that start by summarizing your by summarizing your major result directly, linking them explicitly back to your core research question. Interpret and explain. Contextualize what the result means, explaining the underlying mechanism, pattern, or the theoretical implication of your data. Compare with existing literature that supports your finding with prior study. Now, in summary, it means that what is the difference between what you have found or your finding with the existing literature? For example, you are working on the concept of atta or anatta, right? After you have gathered relevant information already, then what is your finding in comparison with others? You compare between your ideas and others in this section, which is called discussion. Right? After you discuss your points, then you can summarize your contribution later. This is the most important thing. Okay, number 6. How you're going to write conclusion. Now, keep these sentence in mind. What did we learn? Why does this matter? What does it change in the field? Why Buddhist scholars need to read your article in order to understand Buddhist situation of Buddhism much better, right? It is called contribution, right? After you have compared your study with existing literatures already, then you summarize the main contribution you have in your conclusion. Let the information speak for themselves, right? What is we learn? Why does it matter? I mean, if editors read your article, they cannot stay idle. They have to read more about your article because your evidence is compelling. You are discovering something new, right? Okay, what did we learn? What is the new knowledge that you discovered? What new knowledge does the study provide? What have we learned from this study that we did not know or did not understand clearly before? It should go beyond simply reporting the findings, not simply reporting, right? You may use different language to explain what you found already in your conclusion, right? And make sure that you are trying to use, terminologies in the journal, in the journal. It would be great if you refer to many articles in the journal before, right? What kind of journal are you looking for? Read that journal and try to pick up certain articles published in the journal and put reference in your work and try to connect something that the audience of that specific journal has tried already with your idea. It should go beyond simply reporting the finding. The aim is to identify the new knowledge or insight generated by research. What can readers understand now that they could not understand as clearly before this study? So your article need to get better understanding of something new, which has still been studied or proposed by somebody before. It could be a reinterpretation of the old information available in the public canon. It could be a new translation of the text, right? It must be new. It must be new. So you have to discuss with your supervisor whether your contribution is big enough to fit your thesis or for your papers or not. What is the significance of that knowledge? Why should this finding significant? It is significant because you have to explain. This finding is very, very important. It's significant because it will make Buddhist scholars around the world understand Buddhism in this respect much better or some things like that. Why do scholars care about this finding? Why is this finding important? What existing assumption does it confirm, challenge, or complicate? What problem in the existing literature does it help address? A finding becomes academically significant when it helps us reconsider, clarify, challenge, extend.
Recording in progress.
And existing understanding, right? So you are discovering and change the minds of the reader about something, about understanding of certain aspects of Buddhism in the past. It means contribution. What does it change in the field? What is the scholarly contribution? What is the scholarly contribution? Now you can see that contribution is about your content, the main content in your research project or your academic paper. The most important thing in the thesis, either for MA or PhD degree, is the content, right? Within 5 years for doing a PhD degree, what is the contribution you are supposed to do? It is different from MA degree. In England, you spend something like 1 year for MA degree, but for PhD degree, you spend 5 years. So the contribution for MA degrees and PhD are completely different. PhD degree is bigger. It's bigger. It must be new. Otherwise, you cannot finish your thesis. You're going to be failed. Not because of anything else, but because the contribution is too low or lower than standard. Okay? Now, okay, acknowledgement. I mean, uh, anyone who help you to do research, especially your supervisor or even the librarians, even the sponsoring agency for your funding, right? You can write at the end of your research paper before references, right? Especially AI. If you use AI for your paper,นะครับ, you must know how to use it. You must not use AI to write your thesis. You must put information from your finding as much as you can, and then ask AI simply to correct your English, for example, grammar. But you never ask AI to write any specific section for your paper. They have instruments to check your research paper. Once they discover you're going to be failed on the spot, it is very important. So research, IRB or research ethics is very important. It's the foundation of credibility. I think you have heard someone explain these points already. Okay, now we'll take citation and reference. I'm not sure whether uh, you are familiar with all these styles or not, but check the journal. So journal with Oxford style, right? I use Oxford style from the very beginning because Oxford University use Oxford style. And when I started my journal in Thailand, I use Oxford style throughout because it is among the oldest one. And then you have Cambridge style, which follow Oxford style, but there are slightly changed. And then you have Chicago Mental style, very similar to Oxford and Cambridge with slight changes. And then you have alternate style, Howard styles, and APA7, which is the most popular one, especially in business. Many journals nowadays use APA style. So when you put intake reference or final reference, you need to follow that style. Otherwise, it's going to be rejected again. The editor will reject your article at first thing. They check the structure and everything and then deny straight away. He does not need to submit your article to any reviewer at all. They have authority to reject you, right? And more importantly, as I told you already, there are many good papers already that are submitted to specific journal. So if there are better journals than yours will be rejected too. That is reasons why we have to make sure that your information, your content must be sufficient enough to get published in that journal. Okay? Polishing your English. My supervisor is British, but he still asks native speaker, the British people, to check his English. So he told me that if I have finished my article already, I can ask native speaker to correct my English. Every journal have native speaker responsible for correcting your English. So don't get yourself that your English is not good. Then you ask somebody else to correct your English because even native speaker ask native speaker to correct the English, right? You need to have British friends, American friends now. You cannot stay isolated. Even though you are at your university, try to make friends with foreigners in Chiang Mai so that they can correct your English, right? You cannot stay alone. British English or American English, it is another point. Spelling check, you can follow British English or American English. Punctuation is another thing. It's very fine detail, right? In the course of editing journal, it consumes much of time. It is fine to ask a native speaker to correct your English. Okay. And look into it. Approaching the best scholars in your field. There is one technique that my supervisor told me. When I did my DPhil in England, my friends in international relations, in business, trying to present the paper in various conferences in the hope that they will obtain some, comment suggestion from others to improve their paper. But it will be better if you simply approach the best scholars in your field that we know. Right? When you finish your article, then approach the best scholars in your field. Who is the best scholars in your field to read your article? Who is the best scholar in your field? Try to discuss with them. Try to approach them. I approached, two best Buddhist scholars in the world to consult for my work. So when I submitted my DPhil thesis, it took me only 37 minutes to finish. 37 minutes to finish. Right? So when you finish your scholar that the best one in your field, I think your supervisor may be able to to give a list to you to approach. When all is done, when they finish, then approach the scholar as I said already. Selecting the journal. This is, I think Professor Lo Chan May give you the detail. Journal differs that differ topics, word counts, levels of panel. If you are going to select journal rank first or Q1, 2, 3, then it is very competitive. It is very competitive. And I submitted 2 papers. I published 2 articles in the Scholastic Journal Q1, right? The first one took me around 1 year and 2 months. And the second one took me around 2 years. It took a year to let me know that no reviewer will read your article. He sent back to me. So I have to select to another journal since then. Okay. Now, check the relevant journal. Every journal has its own frame. You need to frame your article according to that journal specifically. They have many things different. Check name and scopes of the journal and everything, right? Ask your advisor, relevant scholar for the details. Select your target journal carefully. Access their homepage to find all the details. Especially Buddhist Study Review. Buddhist Study Review is one of the best journals in the world nowadays. Right? Buddhist Study Review is published by the UK Association of Buddhist Study. They have details, scope, and everything is in their website. So check the scope first, and then consult your teacher. Raise questions like, does it accept textual study? What you are supposed to do now? Basically, we select the article according to the research methodology that we are using. For example, you are working on textual study. Your research methodology is qualitative research, focusing on text, and text. Then Buddhist study review is better. Buddhist study is different from religious study. Buddhist study is trying to understand how the Buddha says, how Buddhism teach, right? You does not need to prove anything. You simply bring out the correct message of the Buddha. Then you are finished. But for other journals like sociology of religion, it's not textual study. It's not Buddhist study. There are many frames that you don't like. For example, advocacy policy. You cannot advocate any religion for sociology of religion. So first and foremost, check the frame of specific journal and then try to frame the article accordingly to make sure that it's not going to be rejected as the test. Right? Does it accept qualitative studies of both? Check research methodology clearly. I think the supervisor will work hard from now onward, because if you want to publish in Scopus Index Journal, it takes time. Right? It takes time. I read many articles published in Scopus Index Journal, including articles published in TCI. Mostly, they fail in terms of even writing abstracts, research methodologies, or introduction. We don't need to talk about discussions or results at all. It means that they have not studied research methodology properly in their classroom. Okay, framing article to a target journal. I think Professor will be able to explain to you later. Scope, mission, alignment, joining the ongoing conversation, adapting to the target audience, structuring for format and written content. I would like to summarize, or I'd like to emphasize that you should read specific journal that you're going to send your article to. Make reference to some articles there to make the editor know that you are familiar with the journal, right? Try to find out article published in that journal which is relevant to your research article, and try to refer to that article. It is a technique. Buddhist study review, contemporary Buddhism, applied Buddhism, Buddhist philosophy, If your approach is philosophical, then you should submit to Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist ethics, sociology of Buddhism. I am working on 2 papers now, and I intend to submit to sociology of Buddhism, journals of sociology of Buddhism, uh, sociology of religion, different kind of approach from textual study. IFA, I think this morning they have explained to this already. I will skip this. The rights of research participant, which include blah blah blah. I think you have learned already this morning. Practice letting go of the submission. When you have submitted your papers already, then you have to practice letting go. Vipassana, right? ปล่อยวาง Practice ปล่อยวางนิ่ง Every morning in evening. You cannot get upset when your paper is rejected because it is very normal in the academy, right? The fact that they reject your article does not mean that your article is not good, but because it is not suitable for their journal, right? For whatever reason. I submit it to at least 5 journals before it get published. At least 5 journals before it could get published. So try to let things go. Don't feel discouraged when your article is rejected. Improve your paper and then move on to another journal. Right? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much to Professor ปฐมพงศ์โพธิประสิทธิ์ที่นำแต่ spare your busy schedule to give such very insightful knowledge to our students at MCU University. And as he mentioned about how to write your research paper as well as the academic paper, I think this will be very nice for you for today. And we will ask this presentation paper to give you later on for more study. And what he just summarized that the research paper as well as the academic paper, one very important point. What is that? Do you remember that? Yeah, the contents. So the content is the most important. If we use AI to help you write something, so please check from that, okay? Because as this thing, they speak in Thai, maybe you will not understand the retract. But if you use AI, sometimes AI just give you some citation with fake citation, so that's the careful. We will invite another our professor to continue the present, and then after finish, then we will give a chance for you to question to the section. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.